Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know question is, do you know the connection between the Feast of the Epiphany and immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers? Epiphany means essentially revelation or manifestation of the divine, of God. We celebrate Epiphany on January the 6th, which is exactly 12 days after Christmas. And it's based on a story that's unique to Matthew's Gospel about Magi's, foreigners from the East, Gentiles, who travel and seeking a newborn king who will rule with justice and hospitality, unlike other kings. So they are strangers in many ways, following a star with the hope of seeking this newborn king who will reign differently, who will act differently as a king. They have left home in search of something different, a different way of living, a different way of thinking, a different way of acting. They would like to act more, following a king who will act more with justice and hospitality and welcoming. So the Magi's bring gifts to the newborn king, and typically Epiphany is celebrated in most countries and cultures by the sharing of gifts, modeling on the gifts that the Magi's bring to the newborn king. However, if we look at the intent and the highlight of Matthew's message with the story is that it's focused on the welcoming of strangers. This is the first instance, the Magi story is the first instance in which Jesus welcomes foreigners from a foreign land. They are people who are welcomed simply on the basis of the way the newborn king acts in God's reign, in God's realm, if you want. All are welcome. No one is turned away. No matter what their cultures, what their different way they look, or the different way that they speak, or whatever the different customs may be. All are welcome. And this, as I say, is one example. The Magi story is one example, the first example that we have in Matthew's Gospel of Jesus welcoming the stranger. Matthew is writing primarily to a Jewish followers of Jesus. And he's reminding them consistently of the covenant responsibilities of caring for the stranger. This theme is consistent throughout the entire Old Testament, 16 times in the Old Testament, and in the Christian scriptures as well in the New Testament. The theme consistently runs through all, reminding people who are called to be disciples of the Lord to really care for, reach out, welcome, and care for the stranger. It is a covenant responsibility. In Matthew's Gospel, for example, in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, in chapter 7, verse 7, Jesus is very much quoted as saying, "Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you." Matthew himself follows up with that in chapter 25 by admonishing his own disciples to say that whoever welcomes a stranger and cares for the stranger is actually welcoming and caring for Jesus himself. Interesting enough, Matthew follows up the story of the Magi with the Herod, King Herod, whose fear and insecurity with regards to this newborn king drives him to violence and terror and even murder of innocent children and their families. As a result of this, the Holy Family itself has now been warned to flee for their own safety from this terror and this violence by Herod. So now the Holy Family has become refugees themselves, fleeing into Egypt, a foreign land. So we can easily, hopefully we can easily imagine what they must have been feeling, thinking, and doing as they flee for safety to a foreign land. So the text does not say this, but it would be interesting to see how were they treated? Were they welcome when they knocked on the door of Egypt? How did they provide for themselves? They didn't know the language. They didn't have a job. They didn't know the customs. They didn't know the traditions and so on. Was there anyone there who cared for them to help them kind of adjust to the new, different land and so on? All these issues surface as refugees fleeing their own homeland, seeking safety and security in a different place that is so foreign to them. If you had been an Egyptian, it's an interesting question. If you had been an Egyptian, how would you have reacted to the strange Jewish family knocking at your door? How would you have reacted? So the stories of the Magi, as well as the story of the Holy Family seeking refuge in Egypt, both of these stories really give us much food for thought about what being a disciple of the Lord entails. We model ourselves on the welcoming Jesus, the one who welcomes the stranger, and so on. So again, God's reign, the kind of reign that God came to proclaim in the person of Jesus, is one in which all are welcomed, all are cared for, no one is turned away. So as you celebrate Epiphany this year, or the many years as we go along, as you celebrate Epiphany, it is time to really reflect and act upon what the key message of the Magi and the Holy Family fleeing to Egypt, what it's all about, namely sharing God's love and care for all, most especially the stranger, the immigrant, the refugee, and the asylum seeker. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit about the connection between Epiphany and the immigrant, the refugee, and the asylum seeker. And I hope you will return again to more Do You Know series questions as we continue to delve into the meaning of our scriptures for our Christian life. Thank you very much.